Welcome to Tough Times, Tough Mind video series. We're living in unprecedented times. As we're making this video, there are about 2.8 million people infected with the COVID-19 virus, and about more than 190,000 people have died worldwide because of this disease. You know, perhaps while you're watching this video, you know of somebody who is infected with the disease, or perhaps you yourself are afflicted by this virus. It is times like these, it's normal to feel afraid, worried, and anxious. Now in this video, which is the third and final installment of this, the Tough Times, Tough Mind video series, I hope that you have been encouraged. If you have watched the past two videos, I hope you have been encouraged by it. It has helped you understand why things like hardships and difficulties are happening all around us. And it has helped you to have the right mindset or attitude during times of difficulty. In the first part of this video series, I shared to you a foundational principle about life. And that is, life is not about us. It's all about God and His purposes and plans for humankind. If you don't align yourself to God's plan and purpose, you will always be missing out what life is all about, and you always have this sense of lack of meaning and purpose in life. Now, the second principle that I shared in the second video installment is life is not about the pursuit of pleasure. Pain is part of the human experience. Pleasure per se is not bad. God created us to feel and experience pleasure, but rather it is the pursuit of pleasure that is harmful. A person who lives this way, has this mentality that, their God is their appetite. You see, often we choose to live our lives apart from God, and the way God gets our attention is through pain and suffering. God doesn't want us to remain as we are and live a meaningless life apart from Him. He wants to redirect our lives back to Him and grow and develop according to His plan and purpose for us. Now, in this video, I'm going to share to you the third principle or the third mindset in developing a tough mind. And that is, life is not about results. Life is about faithfulness. People are captivated with results. We give high praise to the valedictorian in high school, to the summa cum laude in college. In business, we adulate the number one company in terms of sales, earnings, and profits. CEOs look at the bottom line. We celebrate athletic achievements and debate who is the greatest of all time in sports like basketball and soccer. The world is fascinated by winners. There's even an old saying, winning is not everything. It's the only thing. There's also another saying, there's no such thing as second place. In other words, people love to win, or we love winners. And we hate being called a loser. But in order to develop a tough mind, you have to believe in this principle, that life is not about results. Life is about faithfulness. When I speak of the word faithfulness or being faithful, I mean the quality of being constant or steadfast. It means that regardless of the situation, circumstance, or results, you remain steadfast. It means that regardless if people recognize you or not, you remain steadfast. It means that even if people criticize you, you remain steadfast. People who get ahead in this world, in school and in office, in sports, are those who achieve results. They get good awards, they get recognition and the promotion. But let me encourage you with this. God is not impressed with results. God is impressed with your faithfulness. In this world, people will only notice you when you produce results. God, on the other hand, is more concerned with your faithfulness than results. Jesus shared a story popularly known as the parable of the talents in Matthew chapter 25. In this parable, or in this story, there were three servants to whom the master gave a large sum of money. To the first servant, the master gave 5 talents. To the second servant, the master gave 2. And to the third servant, he gave 1 talent. Now, a talent is a large sum of money, worth about millions of pesos. A parable is a story to illustrate a life lesson. A talent represents the time, treasure, and talent that God has given you. The master represents God. And God wants to know what you will do with the time, treasure, and talent that He has entrusted to you while you're living in this earth. So the first 2 servants, going to the story, invested the money through trade and business that the master has given them. And they were able to grow the money that they invested. And it doubled. So the first servant who initially had 5 talents now has 10. And the second servant who initially had 2 talents now has 4. Now the third servant was lazy and he did nothing with the money that the master has given him. In fact, he hid the money. Now I'm not going to talk about the third servant. I want to draw your attention to the first 2 servants. If the master was a man who was after results, who would the master favor? Of course, he would favor the first servant because he was able to grow 5 talents into 10. But in the story, after a long time, the master settled accounts with his servants. Now that means that one day God will settle accounts with all of us. Now according to the parable, how did the master respond individually to the first 2 servants when they presented their investment? His response to the first servant is this. In Matthew chapter 25, verse 21, this is what the master said. Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Now, his response to the second servant who had initially had 2 talents, he grew it to 4. His response is this. Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Now, what did you notice about the 2 statements? They were exactly the same. The master did not praise the first servant more highly than the second. Because the truth is, God is not after results. He is after faithfulness. You see, you may not be at the top of your class, your team, your sports league, because there will always be one winner. God doesn't particularly care so much about who wins. What He cares about is your hard work and dedication. Did you do your best? It doesn't matter if you come in second or third or even last place, as long as you do what He wants you to do and you did your best. That's all that matters to God. There's a story about Mother Teresa and Senator Mark Hatfield. Mother Teresa is the founder of the Missionaries of Charity who care for the sick and the dying. At one time, Senator Mark Hatfield was touring Calcutta with Mother Teresa and visiting the so-called House of the Dying, where the Mother Teresa cared for the sick children who were about to die and the poor who line up to get medical aid. So watching Mother Teresa minister to those people, feeding and nursing those left to die, Hatfield was overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the suffering he witnessed Mother Teresa went through every day together with her co-workers. And he asked her, how can you bear the load without being crushed by it? So Mother Teresa looked at him and said, my dear Senator, I was not called to be successful. I was called to be faithful. So whenever you're going through tough times, always remember these 3 principles for you to become resilient. Life is not about you, it's all about God. Second, life is not about pleasure or the pursuit of pleasure. Pain is part of the experience. Third, life is not about results. Life is about faithfulness. Thank you for watching. God bless you.